This is Matthew Cratter from Trade University, and today I want to answer the question, are Bitcoin paper wallets safe? Now, one thing I've been really emphasizing on this channel is when you buy Bitcoin, you don't want to buy it using a service like Robinhood or PayPal or any other service that will not allow you to withdraw your Bitcoin and hold it on a hardware wallet. Hardware wallets have become sort of the standard way of holding Bitcoin and the standard way of holding your private keys. This is what they look like. They plug into the USB port. But the key is that you need to hold your own private keys, and you never want to leave your Bitcoin on an exchange. I like to buy my Bitcoin using Coinbase Pro and then withdraw it and hold it on a Trezor. If you know nothing about hardware wallets or recovery seeds or anything like this, you can also check out this video where I talk about passphrases, pins, recovery seeds, everything you need to know. Again, this is what a hardware wallet looks like. This is the Trezor. And the question I get from a lot of people is, do I really need one? They're kind of expensive. The cheapest version is about $60 before shipping. The Model T, which is the other one, the one that I like, it's got a bigger screen, is more like about $180, I think, at current exchange rates. And so the question I always get, is it worth it? Someone will tell me I only own $100 worth of Bitcoin, and does it really make sense to buy a $50 wallet? Now, this is something you'll have to decide for yourself, of course. People have different risk tolerances, and $100 may be a lot for you. It may not be a lot for you. But one thing to consider is that if I'm right, if Plan B is right, that $100 is going to become $10,000 over the coming years. Certainly at that price, when Bitcoin is trading in the hundreds of thousands or even the millions, and you own what used to be $100 worth of Bitcoin and is now worth $10,000 worth of Bitcoin, spending $50, $60 to secure it will actually make sense. So you'll have to decide for yourself at what point you do that transition. Now, the worst thing you can do, though, is to use a paper wallet. This is a very cheap fix, and it's much more dangerous than most people realize. A paper wallet is something you basically just print out on your computer, and it will have the public address where you send and receive your Bitcoin, as well as the private keys. There are different formats that it gets printed out. Here's another version where the public address is over here and the private keys are over here. Now, this is a very bad idea for a number of reasons, not to mention the fact that paper is obviously not the best way of storing things for the long time. It can get destroyed in a flood. If your house gets hit by some sort of storm or tornado, the paper can obviously be scattered for miles. Even if it's inside of a safe, the safe may be fireproof, it may not be fireproof at certain temperatures, etc. So we all know that paper is not something that you really want to store for the long term. Now, you also cannot just take a picture of this and upload it into your iCloud pictures or drop it into an email. If you do that, you risk having it hacked. Anyone who can see this private key, who can access your data, can immediately take the Bitcoin and move it. So this is the basic problem with a paper wallet. One, it's made out of paper, and two, that paper is really it's difficult to store safely. But it gets even worse than that. If you think about all the cameras that you have, I always cover up my cameras with a little piece of blue tape. But you have a camera on your laptop, your desktop, certainly your iPhone or smartphone, and these can be turned on and off remotely, I just have to assume, and read various things. And so if you're going to have a paper, something like this laying around, first of all, you have to be very careful that it's not being picked up by video cameras. You certainly don't want to be showing one of these or looking at one of these when you're sitting in the Starbucks and they have a camera recording everything in the room. It'd be very easy to sort of focus in on these private keys and steal the Bitcoin. If you print out a paper wallet, even using your home printer, the information is almost certainly being saved either in some sort of short-term memory on the printer or on the hard drive. When you go to sell that computer or you dump it, you never know what's going to happen. Someone could go through there and search the memory and take the private key if it hasn't been erased. And so you actually have to be pretty tech savvy to make sure that it's not being saved somewhere on your computer, somewhere on your printer, somewhere on your router. If you send it over Wi-Fi, even in your own house, someone could be listening And especially if your Wi-Fi is not password protected, someone could be listening in. Not to mention if you use an office printer or some sort of public printer at a hotel or something like that, it could be disastrous. People could intercept your print order through the airwaves and intercept your private key. The other problem, a couple other problems that are even worse with paper wallets, is it encourages you to keep using the same public address. And you really shouldn't do this. If you're using a Trezor, each time you want to send or receive, it can generate a new public address for you to use that's still associated with the same hardware wallet. So this is best practices to always generate a fresh address, and it makes it much more difficult for chain analysis firms or for the government or for anyone who's snooping on the blockchain, because the Bitcoin blockchain is completely open and transparent. Anyone who's snooping there, if you constantly reuse the same public address, you're making it very easy for them. And if anyone can ever associate you with that public address somehow, then they know your whole transaction history. Another thing to consider, a lot of these paper wallets have QR codes that you can scan. If the paper gets wet, if it gets crumpled, if it begins to decay from or break down from the acid in the paper over time, that QR code may not be readable. And as well, this little printout here, sometimes a Q, a B might look like another letter, a B might look like a 6 or something like that. And if there's any smudges here that you don't notice, or if you have trouble reading a couple characters, you may never be able to access your Bitcoin again. Another problem with a paper wallet, how do you know that you really have Bitcoin? You need to be able to verify it, which you can do using a full node if you have one. But what people who have paper wallets normally do is they will just use some third-party blockchain site, and they'll look up the address and see how many Bitcoin are there. If you do something like this, you risk being spied on or snooped on by this third-party blockchain site, and you obviously never want to enter your private address anywhere online as well, because anyone who has your private keys, anyone who has your keys has your coins. Finally, and this is probably the worst part of a paper wallet, most people in the past have used various websites to make a paper wallet, but what we're now learning is that a number of these sites have actually been stealing the data. So what they'll do is they'll print out your paper wallet, but they'll keep a copy of the private keys themselves. Especially this website, which used to be very popular, bitcoinpaperwallet.com. It is definitely a scam. And if you enter your information in here, it will save your private keys, and it will use it to start to steal your Bitcoin, maybe steal a little bit and then steal all of it. So for all these reasons, best practices really is to get a Trezor wallet. These generate their recovery seeds remotely on your computer. They're completely open source, the firmware and the hardware. People worry that there might be some shady Eastern European people behind this who are secretly stealing your data. It's not possible. It doesn't connect to the internet. It just goes through your USB port, and everything is done locally on your computer. How do we know this? We know this because all the code is public, and the whole world is constantly looking at it. So this still remains the best solution. If you want the next stage up, it would be a multi-sig solution where you use multiple hardware wallets as well as some centralized signing service. So you'll have 2 out of 3 keys or 3 out of 5 keys is how this is done. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe and like button. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.